Welcome to our video about 5 scary stories based on real paranormal events. Story 1. Lights over Hinchinbrook, Cardwell, QLD. Cardwell's known for its sugarcane, the sea breeze off the Coral Sea, and that long stretch of quiet highway. But for decades, people around here have whispered about something else. Lights in the sky, voices in the static, and strange things crawling out of the mangroves. Part 1. The Missing Time Case, 1972. It started with a man named Don R., a cane cutter from Ingham who was driving home through Cardwell one foggy morning. He left work at 2:15 a.m. He arrived home at 5:43 a.m. The drive should have taken 45 minutes. He had no memory of where those 3 hours went. His watch was frozen at 3:06. His clothes were on backwards. He was never the same after. Part 2. The Glowing Mangroves, 1998. Local fishers in Cardwell have long told stories of lights in the mangroves along the Hinchinbrook Channel. A group of mates camping there in '98 said they saw orbs hovering silently just above the waterline. They assumed it was drone tech until they realized no noise, no wind. One man went missing for an hour. When he came back, he couldn't speak. Not from shock, he physically couldn't. His voice returned 3 days later. He said only one thing: "It's not the sky you need to fear, it's the tide." Part 3. The Burnt Patch, 2004. After reports of humanoid figures on the edge of cane fields near Cardwell's outskirts, a sugarcane worker found a perfectly scorched circle, 10 meters wide. No fire damage around it. No footprints, no tire tracks, just melted grass. When he touched the soil, his fingers blistered instantly. The next morning, he had a repeating ringing in his ears, like a Morse code pattern. He started digging up radio parts from his shed, claiming they were speaking through the static. He vanished 6 months later. Part 4. The Ranger's Warning, 2017. A Marine ranger who patrolled the Hinchinbrook Channel reported seeing figures in the mist at dusk near the island's southern tip. He said they didn't walk, they floated. He called it in. By the time backup arrived, the beach was empty, but one set of deep three-toed prints remained in the wet sand. The ranger transferred out 2 weeks later. He left behind a journal with one underlined sentence: "The mangroves aren't empty." Part 5. Something watches the water. Whether it's lights, voices, or missing time, people around Cardwell have stopped calling them aliens. They're not from above. They're already here. Tourists keep reporting. Bright lights hovering over the ocean, phones glitching out near the mangrove boardwalk, a low humming that makes dogs whimper. Locals say the sea's always been sacred, and that something old, something silent, walks between the trees when the tide is out. If you ever drive through Cardwell late at night and the radio starts picking up static, don't change the station. Don't stop the car, and whatever you do, don't follow the lights. Story 2. The Hollow Bell, Tenterfield, NSUOs. They say if you walk past Stanham House on a quiet night in Tenterfield, you might hear a bell. Not a church bell, a small one. Hollow, rusted, swinging on its own. The sound means she's awake. Part 1. The Forgotten Girl in the Wall. Tenterfield is proud of its history, Federation talks, historic buildings, colonial charm. But behind the pressed metal ceilings and heritage facades, there's a darker story locals avoid. In the early 1900s, a girl named Eliza C. lived in the attic of a grand Victorian home, believed to be Stanham House or one nearby. Her family kept her hidden due to illness or madness, depending on who tells the story. She wasn't allowed downstairs. She rang a small bell when she needed food. The bell stopped one day. No funeral was held. No grave was recorded. Later, during renovations, a sealed crawl space was found behind a wall in the attic, with child-sized bones and a rusted bell. No charges were ever filed. Part 2. The bell still rings. Since the 1980s, guests staying at the historic inn report hearing soft ringing in the halls after midnight. A group of school teachers staying during a conference were woken by the noise. One said it felt like it was coming from under her bed. They left early. A couple claimed their baby monitor picked up the sound of a girl sobbing, followed by the distinct jingle of a bell. Staff chalk it up to old pipes. Locals know better. Part 3. The Doll in the Cellar. In 2004, kids exploring the old house's basement found a Victorian doll with a cracked face and sewn-shut eyes. The next morning, the doll had moved. Security footage was checked. No one entered the room. Over the next week, 3 guests reported nosebleeds for no medical reason. A cleaner refused to go upstairs after seeing a pale girl vanish through a door that was bricked shut. The bell rang every night for 7 nights. The doll was burned. It was back in the cellar a month later. Part 4. The Burning Eyes. In 2011, a local historian researching old Tenterfield families stayed in one of the upper rooms. She was writing about Eliza C. and said she felt something watching her. That night, she dreamt of being locked in the walls, unable to scream. When she woke, her laptop was open to a document she hadn't written. It read, "I was not sick. I was just different. I asked to leave. They said no." She never returned. Part 5. Still waiting. Locals say if you hear the bell while walking past the house, don't stop. Don't look up at the top window, because sometimes she's there, thin, pale, holding a cracked doll, just watching. And if the bell rings 3 times, they say you'll start dreaming of the walls and wake up bleeding from your ears. Story 3. The Last Knock, Mount Druitt. NS Dallas. Mount Druitt is one of those Sydney suburbs people whisper about after dark. Crime, sure. But there's a different kind of danger in the cracks. One that doesn't make the news. One that knocks. This story is based on real urban myths, police records, and a string of chilling events tied to a house that no longer exists. Locals still won't walk past the lot after midnight. Part 1. The Rental on Harker Street. In 2003, a young couple rented a weatherboard house on Harker Street. Cheap quiet. Too quiet. On their second night, just past 2 a.m., they heard 3 knocks at the front door. Nobody there, but what shook them more? The exact same knock came again, 3 slow bangs, at every single window, one after another. The next day, they checked their security camera, static. Just before the knocks, the feed cut out. They called the landlord. He didn't seem surprised. He just said, "You'll want salt." Part 2. The Burn Mark. The woman started waking with burns, small ring-like welts on her shoulders and arms. At first she thought it was stress, allergies. But they kept appearing, always in 3s. She started sleeping with the lights on. One night she woke to the smell of smoke. The hallway wall had a black handprint burned into the paint. 3 long fingers, no thumb. The smoke alarm never went off. When the fire brigade arrived, the mark had faded. The wall was still hot to the touch. They moved out that weekend. Part 3. The next tenants. A single mom moved in next. 2 kids. She lasted 8 nights. Neighbors reported screaming on the 7th. On the 8th, she fled the house barefoot at 3 a.m. with her children. She later told police something came through the floor, like smoke, but heavier. She said it pressed on her chest while she slept and whispered in her daughter's voice. The landlord refused to refund the bond. She told reporters, "That house wants people inside it." But not for long. Part 4. The Disappearance. In 2010, a man moved in, last known tenant. Kept to himself. Neighbors say they saw him 2, maybe 3 times. His car was found parked out front in early December. Keys in the ignition. Front door ajar. Police entered and found the house empty. No signs of struggle, but the walls? They were covered in handprints, all in 3s. Soot black, leading from the front door to the hallway. His body was never found. The house sat empty until it was bulldozed in 2014. Part 5. What locals say, now the lot is still empty. Grass never grows properly. Dogs refuse to go near it. Locals talk about the triple knock at windows and doors, smoke that smells like rot, whispers in children's voices, burn marks that vanish in daylight. Some think it was a cursed item buried beneath the foundation. Others say something was called to that house and never left. Whatever it was, it didn't like being ignored. And when it came, it always knocked first. Story 4. Don't Whistle in the Scrub, Australia's Hairy Man. They call him the Yowie. Others call him the Hairy Man, the old one, the Shadow Watcher. Australia's answer to Bigfoot isn't just a campfire legend. It's a creature whispered about in over a dozen Aboriginal languages and spotted by truckies, hikers, and locals across the country. And if the stories are true, he's still out there. Part 1. The Legend. Before White Man. Before the word Yowie ever existed, Aboriginal communities told stories of massive, ape-like beings that roamed the forests and mountains. The Dooligal of the Darug people, NS Dollars, a hairy giant with glowing red eyes, known to snatch people from the bush. The Quincan of the Kukuyalanji, FNQ, spiritual beings, some harmless, some monstrous, with long limbs and distorted faces. The Pankarlangu of the Warlpiri, NT, tall, shadowy wild men that whistle in the desert and watch from afar. Some were said to guard sacred sites. Others were warnings. Don't stray too far from camp, and never whistle in the scrub at night. Part 2. Herberton and Tolga, FNQ. In the 1970s, two teenagers walking near Herberton swore they saw a creature crouched in a dry creek bed. It stood up, nearly 7 feet tall, hair like wet bark, and eyes too human to be an animal. They ran, the thing didn't follow. In Tolga, banana farmers in the 80s began reporting damage to fencing, animal feed going missing, and large human-like prints in the mud. One dog disappeared. A second was found ripped open. No bite marks, just torn. One farmer installed motion sensors. They triggered twice, nothing on camera. Just a strange, high-pitched whistle caught on the audio. Part 3. The Scream from Springbrook, QLD Nasudazen border. In 1996, a camper near Springbrook National Park woke to heavy breathing outside his tent. He called out, thinking it was a mate. Something screamed. He described it as a mix between a pig and a lion, deep, guttural, and close. The tent collapsed. He scrambled out, torch shaking. Trees shifted. Something large moved off into the dark. He never camped alone again. Hunter 4. Kilcoy, the Yowie town Kilcoy in southeast Queensland, has leaned into the legend. There's a statue, a festival, T-shirts. But beneath the tourism is a history of sightings going back over a century. A man chased by a gorilla near Sandy Creek in 1871. Bushwalkers in the 60s stalked by something that threw rocks from the treetops. A couple in 2007 who saw a hairy figure cross the highway in 3 strides. Some say it's a type of ape. Others say it's something spiritual. Most agree on one thing: it hates being seen. Part 5. Why the silence? So many sightings, so few photos. But maybe that's the point. The Yowie isn't just an animal. It's a guardian, a warning, a relic of when the land was more spirit than soil. Phones fail, audio distorts. Drones crash. People who get too close describe. Sudden nausea. Feeling watched, hearing whistles just beyond their torch's reach. One tracker from the NT said, "If you hear it, it already knows you. If you see it, you're too far in." Part 6. One last warning. If you're in the bush, alone, and you feel the hairs on your neck stand up, stop. Listen. If you hear breathing that isn't yours, if the birds go silent, if you hear a whistle with no wind, don't whistle back. Because once the hairy man hears you, he never forgets your voice. Story 5. The red-eyed woman, Mariba, QLD. Mariba's sunburnt hills and cane fields hide more than just snakes. It's a region steeped in shadow, whispered warnings, strange lights, and a woman no one admits to seeing, until it's too late. This story is built from real FNQ folklore, decades of sightings and spine-chilling events that locals still talk about, but only behind closed doors. Part 1. The Cane Fields Watcher. Cane harvesters have always spoken of weirdness at the edge of Mariba, especially near paddocks that back onto bushland. Since the 1960s, multiple workers have seen her, a tall woman in an old white dress, standing in the middle of the rows, unmoving. Always at dusk, always just out of reach. One driver reported she vanished the moment his machine's spotlight hit her. Another said she walked straight toward his rig without blinking and disappeared inches from the windshield. Locals call her Red Eyes, because those who've seen her up close never forget her stare. Part 2. The School Incident. In 1997, kids at a small Mariba primary reported seeing a woman standing outside the oval fence. She didn't move, didn't speak. Some said she was crying, others said she smiled. When teachers checked, no one was there. But several students became violently ill that day, and nausea, nosebleeds, panic attacks. One child claimed she followed him home and whispered to him through the air vent in his wall. His parents moved within a week. Part 3. The House on Doyle Street. An old weatherboard home on Doyle Street sat empty for decades. Tenants never stayed long. A woman who lived there in 1983 claimed every night at 2:33 a.m. she'd hear slow footsteps on the front steps. Always the same, always pausing just before the door. She tried to bless the house. Burn sage. Nothing worked. One night she opened the door right after the last step creaked. Nothing was there, except 2 wet footprints on the floorboards, like someone had just stepped inside. Part 4. What she wants. Some say the woman is tied to a fire, a girl who died in a cane blaze in the 1940s. Others believe she's much older. An Aboriginal elder once said the spirit is not of the land, but was brought here. She doesn't speak, she doesn't scream. She just stares, with eyes that burn red when the sun dips low. And those who see her up close often get sick. Bad dreams, rashes, paranoia, as if whatever she is, stays with you. Part 5. Still watching multiple reports of a tall woman outside farmhouses at dusk, red eyes glowing in cane fields with no light source, kids whispering about a lady with no voice, pets refusing to enter certain rooms or paddocks. People still see her, but no one takes photos. Equipment fails, phones glitch. They say she shows herself when something's about to happen. An accident, a fire, a disappearance. So if you're out in Mariba and you see someone staring from the edge of the cane at twilight, don't look back, because once she sees you, she never stops watching. Based on true local accounts, FNQ folklore, schoolyard stories, and cane field sightings. Names, locations, and dates adjusted for privacy. Thank you for watching.